Good morning, everyone. This is a pretty big deal. China is refusing canola imports from Canada. And, well, it's a pretty big market, and two, China has a pretty big share of the market. So, know any canola farmers? They had a really bad day. CBC News reporting. Quote, breaking. The Canola Council of Canada now says China has stopped buying all Canadian canola exports, including oil as well as seed and meal. The country represented 40% of the global market for Canadian canola products. And here's our global news. China has stopped all canola imports from Canada, industry group says. Earlier this month, China started blocking canola imports from Canada, citing the detection of, quote, hazardous organisms. But International Trade Minister Jim Carr said he had seen no evidence of this. The CCC stated in a Thursday press release that, quote, Chinese importers are unwilling to purchase Canadian canola seed at this time. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told reporters in Thunder Bay, Ontario on Friday he's optimistic the government will make headway on the issue. Or scroll down. The dispute over canola comes after Canada arrested Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou, called China's tech princess, on charges on behalf of the U.S. She and the company are facing 13 charges, including conspiring to defraud U.S. banks by misrepresenting the tech giant's relationship with a company that operated in Iran, which violates U.S. sanctions against the Middle Eastern company. She is facing extradition to the U.S. So the newspaper is bringing you up to speed on all of the events that have been happening between China and Canada, but this canola crisis is closely related to Wang Mengzhou's arrest and coming extradition. They tried changing the sentence on a Canadian who had been a drug mule, and they changed it from life in prison to death, and they've arrested a couple of other Canadians in China at this point in time. But it's interesting to watch this change in tactic. Okay, so you're not gonna deal with these former prisoners or these citizens, but you will deal maybe if we decimate your farmers, because that's what's going to happen. It's incredible, really. This is a tactic, and this is a byproduct of being an exporting society, right? Our part of our economy, 40% of our canola economy depends on exports and exports to China. So interesting. Justin Trudeau has not done a good job at managing any of this. He's done an absolutely awful job at managing this. Here's a report from yesterday, CBC News, talking about the priest being stabbed during morning mass at Montreal's St. Joseph's Oratory. And I wanted to point this out. This person has been arrested. Charges are pending. Okay, so I want you guys to understand that while I'm reading this, and you'll see why in just a minute. Okay, the suspect was quickly wrestled to the floor by security guards after stabbing Father Claude Gros, rector of the oratory. The priest was taken away by ambulance with minor injuries to his upper body. Quote, I saw the man coming quickly and taking his knife out and going straight for Père Gros, recounted Adèle Plamond, who was just finishing the day's reading when the man rose from the pew. It was obvious what his intentions were, so I left screaming to alert the security. Afterwards, she saw the man on the floor being restrained. The attack was captured on a live stream and television broadcast by the Catholic channel Salt and Light. And you can watch the video of the attack here. Philip Barrett, who was attending the mass along with about 60 people, said the priest was behind the altar getting ready to proclaim the gospel when a tall man stood up from one of the pews and started walking forward. He walked past the barrier leading into the sanctuary near the altar, and everyone was just initially wondering what was going on, and some people were starting to react a little bit, he said. He walked directly behind the altar and seemed to strike the priest. Both Plamond and Barrett described the attacker as a tall, slim man who didn't say anything. Both said they had not seen him at the church before. A tall, slim man who didn't say anything. Okay, and there's a picture here of him, and I've seen the unfiltered one as well. A 911 call was made at 8:40 a.m. The suspected attacker was already being held by security when police arrived, said Montreal Police spokesperson Constable Caroline Shrevey. The man, who is 26, was taken into custody and will be interviewed by investigators later today. She said police say he isn't expected to be charged until Saturday at the earliest. Right? So no name until Saturday, right? Charges are pending. He's a tall man who stabbed a priest. Right. 19 people face charges. No charges laid yet. They face charges following Hamilton dispensary raids. If you work in a marijuana dispensary, Almost 20 people are facing charges following a series of raids at 3 illegal cannabis dispensaries in Hamilton. The 19 accused are both men and women from Hamilton who range from age from 19 to 36. And here's all of their names, every single one of them. Is that weird to anybody else? Is that a really strange thing? If you stab a priest, no names, and on Saturday we might release something, but maybe not. We'll see. 6 months later, he's a mental health patient who needs our help and our forgiveness and our compassion. But if you sell marijuana, have your name in the paper, sir. How dare you contravene the rules of this country? How dare you contravene the rules of law? What in the world is going on in Canada? Honestly, what in the world is going on? Stab a priest, no problem. If you work in an illegal drug dispensary that has 2 locations in Hamilton and is called MMJ Canada, you bet you're gonna have your name in the paper, man. Weird. This is weird. This is around the corner kind of stuff. This shouldn't be happening in a country where the rule of law is paramount, right? If they wanted to make marijuana legal, they should have made it legal. What they did is basically revitalize shutting down anybody who's not in the monopoly. And the monopoly in Ontario, they can't even get started because their supply is crap and the black market is much, much better. Really. It's unbelievable. And I mean, the missteps that the federal government has taken with marijuana legalization and the provincial governments have taken with marijuana legalization has been just atrocious, just awful. But this is another issue entirely. I think it's very, very, very concerning. They're publishing names in this instance, and in this instance, they're calling him a tall man. Whew. Okay, the final story today is on Monday. Mr. Bernier is hosting his second virtual town hall, and this will be on the 2019 Liberal budget. I've heard some really good questions. What would your budget look like? And another one was, would you revitalize our gold reserves, which I thought was a good question. The Trudeau government basically liquidated for $35 million Canada's gold reserves. We have like 22 ounces of gold now left in the reserves. I think that's really strange. So anyway, I think there were some good questions. It's worthwhile. They are in French and then in English. I believe it starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's 8 p.m. for Toronto if you're not in Toronto. All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. Enjoy. Check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca.